Welcome to Mindful School Marketing, your go-to podcast for personal and professional growth.
We're school marketers, business owners, and moms passionate about connecting other school professionals with tools and strategies for success.
We love solving problems, exploring new ideas, and thinking outside the box. Let's transform your school and life starting right now. Welcome to Mindful School Marketing. I'm Aubrey Bursch. We hosted this conversation that you're going to hear right here as part of our Small Schools Enrollment and Marketing Summit. And I kept thinking more people need to hear this. So it's a group of school leaders talking about enrollment, what's changing, what families are asking for, and what's actually working. And I'm so glad that we get to share it with you here today on this podcast episode. So stay tuned for our enrollment panel. I'm super excited for this conversation. Very grateful to have Marnie Schattgen from Fredericksburg Academy, Matt Thornton from Robert C. Parker School, and Matthew Farley from James River Day School joining us today. They have a wealth of just varied positions and what they do and their experience, and they're bringing it all today to really talk about some key topics that are impacting enrollment and admissions leaders in our small schools today. So I'm really excited to dive into those topics. I encourage you to ask questions along the way. The way we're going to roll this format is really, we're going to ask questions within the panel, and then at the end, we've saved time. We've set aside time to ensure that we answer all your questions too. So don't worry, if you ask a question, it will be answered. We'll just save it for the end. So I also want you to have a chance to connect with our panelists too. Marnie, Matt, and Matthew have a tremendous experience, lots of M's, and we'll throw their contact information and bios in the chat too, so you can connect with them. So without further ado, are we ready, panel, to do this? We are. Awesome. Great. So we put a lot of thought and time into these questions, and just there's so many things we could ask. So obviously we can't get to everything, but we're gonna, ask some of the ones that really came up often, and we think that will be beneficial to you. So let's kick it off, okay? How are today's parents different in the admissions process, and what are you noticing about their expectations right now? I love, Marnie, can you kick us off with this one?
I can. I think that a lot of changes that we've seen over the years, when I started, this is my 23rd year at Fredericksburg Academy, not all in admission, but when I came in as a parent, I was looking for the answers to where was art and where was music. And now we're getting questions about how much tech time is there in kindergarten. And I don't want my child on an iPad, even though the child is walking through the tour on the parent's phone so that the parents can ask questions. We're seeing the instant gratification. They want the answers now. I got a phone call the other day from a family who had literally hit the apply button at 4:44 and at 4:54 called to see if I had the application. I wasn't looking at applications at that point. So that instant gratification, I still want you to fix my child. I don't want to do that. I don't want to parent. I want you to do the parenting piece. It's not the partnership that it has been before.
Yeah, I would agree with much of that. I mean, it obviously depends on your location and culture of the area you're in. I'm Matt from upstate New York, so very familiar with the migration that we had during the pandemic from New York City. A lot of families moving from there, and seeing a lot of folks just worried about getting into pre-K or, having a space. And, up here, we're doing admissions year round. It's a very different type of admissions season. And so it was great. And also, interesting to hear from families who are thinking, many, many years ahead, which is good. And also, with that same level of urgency Marnie is talking about, families who are just being, having, just giving birth like within months and realizing they need to get a spot. That's good for admissions. It has waned a bit since the pandemic. I think migration to the Albany area in particular does continue though. And I think a lot of folks across the country are seeing still a ton of um, transfers and folks moving, based on all the factors, the job changing and all of that. I think we need to be ready for and prepared to, work with families who are moving. I don't do a wait list. And so that surprises people, but I think it also comforts them to say, oh, we're not too late, or we don't have to get in, early. But what we have done is started up with a forest dollar program. And actually today I did a baby hike. So, something that's a very low stakes registration, just kind of show up. We want you to come and explore the campus, but I don't think a wait list holds for multiple years personally. Others can speak to that here too. But they just want to get in there so they have a name somewhere. But for me, it doesn't last because they moved on, within a year or two, maybe. So I much prefer the personal touch when you're thinking about long range admissions.
Thanks so much,
I'll
Matt.
just chime in. I'll kind of second what the other two said. I've noticed um, as educational trends shift in kind of the news cycle, so do our parents kind of shift what they're looking at as well. Recently, it has been in technology. So I think that I'm from a small school where about 250 total students in Lynchburg, Virginia. A little bit about me. Um, we are the only K-8 non-sectarian day school in our area. So competition for us is really about value. So staying ahead of what parents are looking for and making sure we're always taking care of our own parent population and what they're finding to be valuable. Um, just staying up as those things shift. So for us, it's been technology and use of technology for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate these insights. I think it's really interesting to see, the shift in parents and the shift in parent culture for sure. I was remiss in I jumped right in and got super excited about this entire panel, and I realized I didn't formally allow you to introduce yourself. So I know, Matthew, you just spoke a little bit about your school. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your experience too, and your role and how you serve your school?
So I serve my school as the admissions person. So it's all things admissions. I also work a lot with a small team of two other individuals as part of the advancement team. We all kind of collaborate on large events, but I'm also involved in some of the strategy and a lot of the digital marketing efforts. When you're with a really small team, you have to choose the hats that you feel like you can step into. So for me, it's everything admissions and enrollment. And then not so much the day-to-day social media, but a lot of the marketing pushes, a lot of the strategic data analysis of what we should do where, a lot of the trend analysis of what we're seeing, what's coming next.
Yeah. Thanks, Matthew. Marnie, I'd love to hear more about your experience and your role.
So I came into this kind of accidentally. I started in college admissions years ago for a small college in Northwest Iowa. And then I worked for Washington University in their development office. And then I decided it was time to be a mother. So we quickly had 4 children. And so I stayed home. And when they discovered Fredericksburg Academy, so did I. And I came in a very different role than admission, but the admission role kind of opened and closed and opened and closed. And so I was in and out of the admission office. And I've been the director of admission and index tuition for about 9 years now. We are located right between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, so a great location for field trips and things. And Fredericksburg Academy is the only independent school in the Fredericksburg area. So our competition is private religious-based schools and really strong public school, governor school programs.
Yeah. Thanks, Marnie. I appreciate it. And Matt.
Yeah, everybody. Matt Doherty, I'm Director of Admissions. And look at all the M's here. Yeah. I mean, this is, Aubrey planned that. We put the M in admissions. So I also run a lot of our marketing, another M. And, one-man show in my school, we're very small, 160 students. So I wear all the hats, which is why you haven't seen me a lot at the round tables recently, because I have recess duty at that time. And so how we do, we get in, we do what we can to help out the whole school. We're also a progressive school in upstate New York. As I mentioned, we have 77 acres. So a big differentiator for us is a nature-based curriculum that we love. And a lot of families are responding to that. So thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, I love this. And I'm glad I remembered to come back to this because you all had, I know there's leaders right now who are here who are probably like, oh, I identify or, that sounds like my journey to get to my position, or these are the things that I am working with at my school right now. So thank you for sharing. Let's jump into our next question. I want to talk about the admissions funnel. What are you seeing right now in terms of the biggest drop-offs from inquiry to tour or to application to enrollment? Like, what are you seeing in terms of trends or things you're noticing as you're going through this? Matt, can you kick us off with this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as far as the top of the funnel, I think inquiries are still coming in, but they're less solid. So I think there's been a drop in real inquiries because technology is so available, because it's easy to click a link and get a brochure and then, kind of move on, watch 10 seconds of a video and then move on. These things mean you might have data but in emails, but they're not so solid. So that's been a trend. So that funnel, the top of the funnel is a little trickier to pull from. And I think it does also vary by age. So if you're like me, pre-K through 8th grade, perhaps high school is different. Each division level, I think looks very different. I think there's a bit more tire kicking surely in pre-K. Then there are older grades. So older grades, I tend to find are much more solid and able to I can pick up the phone and somebody will answer. I have been I've been sort of a hesitant AI user, kind of early adapter of ChatGPT, and then really not loving it because it just produces more of what you already know. A lot of you may have experienced that. You're just like, okay, maybe for writing a blurb or something, but I went to the NICE conference a few weeks back and just got some intel on Notebook LM, which is actually part of the Google suite. And I'm nervous too about privacy and security. This technically is native, so when you upload your sources, it's a little bit. I feel more comfortable using it for that purpose to analyze some data. So I've been able to pull all my application or inquiry data and plug it into Notebook LM for analysis. By the way, boards also love that, and you're able to really kind of look at projecting these. So I've been using a lot for projection for next year. How many applications have I gotten over the last 6 years in between June and September, right? These are big numbers that people want to know, okay, is it going to change? So the top of the funnel analysis I think is actually a lot of fun and critical. I also want to say we work with the EMG and others for digital marketing. I think we increased our ad spend in January to March, and because a lot of we were seeing that we weren't saturating a particular keyword market. Private school near me, obviously it's that's a big one for you wherever you are, or preschool near me or whatever. And we were only getting 20% or so. And they kept saying, well, you haven't really hit the right ad spend. And so our board and my head of school backed me and said, okay, let's go big on January, February, March. And it was huge. So we're at 80 to 90% of that saturation now for some of those big keywords. So that's something to analyze. And obviously it depends on your market and how many people are playing in that, those digital ad spends. But for us, because it's small town, it's a little easier maybe, but then bigger cities. But something to really look at. I found that helps a lot for that top of the funnel. But I'll let others speak to their funnels as well.
Yeah, Marnie, let me know what your thoughts are on this.
So I'm finding that our funnel looks a lot like the 18-19, the pre-COVID years, as opposed to the panic of, oh my gosh, my child's got to be in a in-school kind of situation. So I think the COVID ride is over for most of us. My head of school and I worked really hard in the last 3 years to make sure that our board was on board with our goals being realistic. We do have a growth goal, but it doesn't have to happen overnight. It shouldn't happen overnight. And there's a lot of training goes with that. We are talking about if we expand our middle school into 3 sections of 3 grades, then we need 1 more teacher that can teach math, science, history, English. And you really can't hire 1 teacher to do all of that. So when they're looking at, oh, let's be bigger, let's make more money, that's not always the best scenario. And it's nice to see them come around and say, okay, the goal for next year is the same as where we are in enrollment now, and it will be the same for next year.
Yeah, it's nice to have goals that are aligned with reality and what's best for the school. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Matt and Marnie. I'm curious, this is a question that comes up a lot for everyone. Are traditional open houses still working for you? Have you tried? What have you tried? And what have you kept or moved away from? Matthew, can you kick us off with this one?
Yeah, so short background, we run admissions all year long. We do have a defined admissions process, but we go rolling admissions for the rest of the year. When I first arrived at the school, we did have 1 open house specifically for parents interested in kindergarten, not a pre-K. We need to have one of those. It did so well for us. We added 1 in the winter for K-8 to try and drum up interest. I would say we only added it after we were fairly certain that it would have a good return on investment. We also go in, maybe this is jumping into questions. Our goal is to make it feel as personal as possible and make sure that the event itself feels like our school, small, community driven, personal. So we went through the lens of what do we know already works. We set a reasonable goal. I think the first 2 years we did our second open house, our yield from that event was over 90% enrolled of people that showed up. So we were really careful. We started really small. Event got snowed out this year, but our return on investment from people that signed up was still really great for us. So I would say they're still worth it if it aligns with your core values, if you can show what makes your school special, and if you're certain about what you're doing before you try it.
Wow.
We've totally phased them out. We were putting a lot of effort into faculty being here, student ambassadors, parents, and we probably dropped from 30 families to 3 families. And, to have all those people on campus for 3 families, it's not worth it. So we we tried every first Tuesday of the month, then we tried every Tuesday of the month. Somebody earlier mentioned walk-in Wednesdays, and I thought that's a great way to look at this. So I just kind of run the every day as an open house schedule with me. And I will either get a student to show you around or I will do it myself. But I think it's really important that the tour is geared toward each individual family and not a group of families, because everybody's looking for something different. And I live close to campus, so I'm doing empty buildings on the weekends if that's all the time somebody can come. But I'd rather have them see us in action and see the engagement of the students and the teachers.
Yeah, like I'll co-sign that, classes in action is what parents want to see. And older students, because you're getting older, they'll come to an open house. We do still run them, but during the school day, mornings, a 9 to 10:30, hour and a half, and do a presentation once a month with like a head of school, our division heads, and anybody else who I can get to come and talk about like the cool work that they're doing. But yeah, the meat is the tour and seeing kids actively engaged. I mean, that's the most important thing. Yeah, Saturday open house was painful at best. And I would say too, like parents do appreciate the time. And so like to Marty's point, I had to think about my time a little bit, and those open houses have freed me up a lot too, because I'll have a team that will do the tours. It has given me a lot of time back. But parents want your time also. So it's that balancing act. I would say to the process of getting in touch with your school and your tours. I mean, that's made for me a lot easier with Calendly or any of those tools. just tying it all together, something that is specific to registration, super important, and pretty easy nowadays. Um, yeah, so I think though going back to the point is, that warmth, that first meeting, super important. Um, and just keep going.
Yeah, thanks so much. We talked about open houses and we touched on tours. Does anyone have anything else to say about tours? Because I know that was kind of our next question. So I just want to make sure that if you did have anything else to say, we gave you the opportunity to do so here.
So I've turned most of my tours over to my student ambassadors. And I remember that when I was looking at Fredericksburg Academy, I wanted my children, I have 3 boys and a daughter, and I wanted my boys to be Caroline, who had toured me. There was no way they were going to be Caroline, but she had this poise about her she was a 9th or 10th grader at the time. And the things that she was involved with, the things that she said, and even today, when I think about giving my own tours, I can talk about it from a mom point of view, but that doesn't hit with a 9th grader or a 7th grader. They want to hear from the students. And I think about even touring colleges with my kids, and I would say to them, the tour guys, what are you doing on Friday night? And they're like, oh, we're going to the library. And I'm like, no, you're not. I really want to know what you're doing on Friday night because I want to know what my kids are going to do on Friday night. And so I think it's really important that when we can, they have that person that they want to be when they grow up, give them that tour. And it's hard to match them because you don't know what's coming in the door. And I never scheduled them when I couldn't do them, because what if the student is sick? What if they suddenly remember there's a test that they need to study for? And that's what they're here for. But I really think the more I can turn those tours over to them, the better.
I'll second in on that too. And I'll also say all of our open houses are during the school day so they can see, because it is so important. 3 votes, so important for them to see kids in action. I'll also say that my goal on a school tour, because even people that come to the open house want a tour just with me. I also have students who have 7th and 8th graders that are there for the same reason Marnie mentioned, is I want parents to start imagining what it's like being part of our school and what it's like for their student to walk through the halls. And I want them to start seeing kids doing natural things and imagining their son or daughter with that group of friends, moving the way they move through the halls, treating each other in a certain way, caring for each other, being in a teacher's classroom. If I can get the parent to start imagining, then they're probably coming, because I believe what they will imagine is what they want for their kids. So that's my mindset on tour.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think back to the tour, the student tour was what sold me on our current school. So I was like, as Marnie said, I was like, oh, I want my child to be this child because this child is amazing. Not that my children are amazing, but you're looking at the possibilities and the future. So beautiful. Well said.
Tim, like in hand, just one piece, because younger students, aren't necessarily they able to get tours, but I prefer just setting it up as a greeter. And a lot of teachers will have a greeter role in their list of jobs. So there's a greeter, and that actually works really well because I do trainings for greeters, and just having them pop up on a tour and come over to you and be cordial and friendly and talk about the projects they're doing is huge. So without a full-on student tour guide program, which is a lot, Marnie, I give you a lot of credit. That's like the next tier down.
I love that. And think about how that could be showcased to your current families as showing a leadership position within the classroom, and you're helping students be able to speak with adults and potentially other students too. Fantastic. Okay. Let's talk about, now you have an enrolled family. They've said yes, right? This is something that comes up a lot with schools. How are you helping them feel connected to the community right away? Marnie, you want to kick us off?
So I think it's really important that you invite them to absolutely everything that you do on campus. And I start that, there's a fall carnival in the fall. And even families that I'm touring in September or might not even have filled out the application, I'm inviting to join us for that fall carnival. The holiday breakfast in December, come and see usually the play. I have to always make sure it's age appropriate for everybody. But to come see our students, come to a game. They're free and open. Come watch the kids play. And then my student ambassador group, which is very strong. It is a leadership position in the upper school, and I have 4 co-chairs. So it doesn't all fall on one person. Actually, so this morning we sang happy birthday and delivered cupcakes and balloons to our auction winner in the lower school. It's a huge, tiny little touch, but it will make the social media post. But they get together, and we usually do it between our winter break and our spring break, and they write postcards that just have a picture of campus, and they just kind of say, welcome to the family, and family is capital F, capital A in our world. So it's a very simple write, and then they also write a note card that's more personalized to every student. In kindergarten, you're going to love Dinosaur Day, and wait until you get to go on the Chesapeake Bay trip in 8th grade. And we can't wait for you to play lacrosse with us in high school. So those go out, the postcards go out in March, the note cards go out April-ish, May, and then in June, I will send a welcome box. It's pretty extensive. We've taken some of our advertising dollars and put it into this. So we have a design box that looks like a falcon when you open it. Not really, but it has little wings on it. And it's filled with the water bottle, the t-shirts, the phone wallet, the sticky notes, the Frisbee. We did a scroll, which I totally stole from one of the college visits, where it's got the graduation year on it and pictures, and it says, welcome to the class of whatever, and it's tied in a ribbon, and it takes some effort. We did Taylor Swift bracelets that I made for a while. We've gotten rid of those. I don't think they're quite as popular as they were a couple years ago, but that will go out in the mail in June. I've heard that these children that get these sleep with the postcard. They're getting mail in the mailboxes, and so many of our, 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds don't get mail. They don't even know what it is. So they're excited to have that piece of paper to hold in their hands and carry around with them. But I think that, one of the other things I do is I take over the summer emails. So I send welcome emails from the grade level, and I do them so that the teachers are not inundated with, is my child going to be in your class? What about this? Can we have a parent teacher conference in July? I know you don't know my child yet, but I schedule them so that if you're Aubrey, you're not going to get all of your children's emails on one day. You're going to get them throughout the summer. You're going to get your invitation to the tech piece different than the reminder to do your math homework. So that, and they go to parents and the children. Obviously, 6th through 12th graders have their own emails.
Thanks, Marnie. I really appreciate that. Does anyone else have anything to add to this one, or should we move on to our next question?
It's definitely an opportunity to talk about your mission again. Even though they've signed the contract, like, you gotta continue to encourage them understanding the mission versus just like buying into it. We have a postcard, so similar to Marnie in some ways. Like, I won't belabor that, but sending out a welcome packet is great. But we create a postcard with like a little map of our campus, which is super cute. And it says adventure begins here. So that's like just a little, hey, okay, we're going to put this up on the fridge. Water bottle stickers are still hot. Like, I still have room on my water bottle. So yeah, those are great. And then just like a little notebook with the logo. So we're trying to keep it super simple, and but that cuts across grades. I would add to, like, this is an opportunity for your board to be involved. I know boards often are looking for ways to like meet new families. So I'll just connect it with a board. They'll call every family and just explain what the board is. And a lot of people didn't understand, like, what's this, trustees, what is that? So to get them to kind of like understand that they're a resource, but also like they're helping to keep the strategy and the financial health in the school alive. So just another neat touch point.
I would also say we have a welcome box, but I was writing down a lot of the things Marty does that we might want to try. Most of our focus is more on, we consider it more onboarding of families immediately after they come in. So we have a one-room schoolhouse free of charge for all of our new students to come and meet all the teachers and have like practice school for a few days. We have mixers for new parents to connect with current parents. For kindergartners, we hold 4 events over the summer where they get to play and learn with their music teacher or their art teacher or their PE teacher. And we make it short enough so that the parents feel like they should stay so they can start talking and connecting, communicating. So that's where we're primarily focused. And usually it's a later retention strategy. We're as many connections as we can form all the way up to like tissues and tea event on the first day of school for kindergarten moms at a coffee shop so that they can come and commiserate kind of the ending of an era for them. It touches on that retention piece, that making sure they're still excited and connected.
Wow. I'm sure our schools were taking notes. These are some great ideas you all have. I mean, I can just tell the thoughtfulness that has been put into that parent journey and understanding like what families need after they've accepted. So thank you. We did touch on swag a little bit in that. Is there anything else you'd like to say about swag, since that comes up a lot and what swag is popular right now and everything like that? Does anyone want to have anything to add on that?
I would just
Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
I would just say that we try and be intentional. So our boxes kind of look different for different age groups. But we always try and include, like, I love the map idea. We always try and include a really well-made calendar of the year to go on a refrigerator, because that's something they'll use and they'll keep looking at. But we also use a car magnet because parents are really proud, and that travels around the city with them, and that pride gets shown in new areas. So we definitely try and think farther than, is this a cool thing, to how is this thing valuable to the family and ourselves to make best use of dollars.
Yeah, t-shirts. Just get them out there. T-shirts out Oprah style, right? Everybody has a t-shirt. We open a Parker store, so we try to do like a spring version. We do a fall and then a spring, so people can purchase new swag before the summer, and that's like another kind of like way to get excited. And then sometimes like I'll have kids make stuff. One time we get seed packets, so they're like stuffing little packets with logo and QR codes and handing those out during our New Failing meetups. So sometimes it's like whatever is going on in the school, if you can turn that into a product, that actually is really great.
Thanks. That's great. I love the idea of, really being intentional about what you're doing and, what's been effective. Also, like serving 2 purposes too, marketing as well, marketing your school as well as making sure that families are excited about what you're giving them, and then, excited to be a part of your school. I'm going to kind of switch course a little bit here. Let's talk about financial aid. This is something, a lot of schools are talking about. They're revisiting, financial aid in general. What's changed, do you think? And how are you talking about affordability with families right now? Marnie, would you kick us off?
So I think people are still investing in our schools because they do see the value. They recognize that their children are going to be individualized and get everything that we've promised them. But the families themselves don't want to adjust their spending at this point in order to give that to their children. It's no longer the gift that you're giving, but now it's, I don't want to give up what I have in order for this to happen. So I am seeing, as the director of index tuition, families that make 6 figures, and that first figure is a 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes a 6, applying for index tuition. And it's interesting that at the same time, and one of the questions we ask on our application is, what do you spend on vacations? And it's not to say you can't go on a vacation, but when you're saying to me, I'm spending $5,000 to $10,000 a year on a vacation, year after year after year, you can only go to Europe so many times, or Disney so many times. And so I find myself spending a lot of time explaining that index tuition is made to assist families that need a little bit of assistance with the tuition, not to supplement your child who's going to be the next Tiger Woods or your lifestyle changes, lifestyle needs. Do you need that new car every year? Kind of thing.
Matt, what about you?
I would say well, the economic concerns for families here are very real, and I'm seeing more and more of our families with one parent who's been laid off. The changing job market is we're not immune at all. Even though that it's a robust economy here, I mean, there's chip factories in general, and there's universities. Um, there's just a general feeling of concern that I noticed, and not to mention like the fact that the costs are rising, including our own, right? And so it all factors in. We dipped further into rainy day funds for families, that we had, where family members lost their job. Of course, we have tuition insurance. By the way, get it if you can get it. Could save you. Um, the but the future is like very tenuous, and families, in my experience too, there's some who are asking, like where I said, like who, clearly they probably don't qualify. And I'm okay with that. Like, go ahead and submit an application. We'll tell you whether or not you qualify. Just tell us, that you're in this position. And it gives you more information too about them, like yourself. But then there are some families who either haven't applied before or probably should. And then you find out later, like, oh, we can't do it anymore. We're gonna go public. And well, we could talk, like, let's talk. And I've even had families who have 3 kids, one lost a job, and they were still like they're enrolled, everything's happening. But in the middle of that, like, didn't even think to appeal or talk to me. And I had to really reach out and say, hey, what's happening? Can we talk? Like, let me see if I can help, because I can. I mean, our board is committed, and things are strong. I can help. So that to me has been interesting. Like the last few years, like more and more families hitting on a wall, or just getting antsy and concerned. Right. So financially, sometimes is that tool. Sometimes though, it has a reverse effect. Families are like, that's not really what I'm concerned about, even though I told you that was my problem.
Mhm.
And then they feel offended, like, oh, well, you're giving me more aid, but that's not it, right? I'm almost like offended. But that said, it's definitely a lever, and definitely most families who have had those conversations are just immensely grateful.
Thank you. Let's talk about marketing and enrollment and like things that maybe small schools might overlook or should prioritize, or maybe you think that they should prioritize based on your experience. Matthew, can you weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think so. We've been really smart in trying to make sure we know why things are happening, what things are happening. I don't think it could ever be stated enough. The most important thing you can do is be mission aligned and make sure the value you put out into the world is the mission and is the brand. So for us, a few years ago, we joined with a large company that did a lot of things. We weren't really sure what was working and what wasn't. We ended our relationship, and we noticed a change, and I was able to ascertain what was actually disappearing. For us, it was remarketing. So remarketing has been huge for us. We're in a place where we're the only non-sectarian, only K-8, we're the only option of our kind. We lost the ability for everyone to see our mission and value when remarketing wasn't there. So when we added it back, we've seen a huge uptick in inquiries, applications, tours. Almost everything is up. The next K grade level in is significantly higher than the grade level before. So for us, remarketing has been something that we did not know how much we needed it. And we'll probably make sure that we're sending a values aligned advertisement out that way for the foreseeable future.
Agree. That true to the mission piece it's got to be in everything that we do.
I would just add too, in when I think about strategy, and stuff that I like, okay, if I had a windfall day with time, what would I actually do? You don't have it, but I did. And sometimes I do. I'll take them back. I feel like partnerships sometimes are a way that we've been able to grow into markets or folks that maybe are moving to the area for jobs. Um, they can be programmatic at start, right? Like folks who are, big companies that do biotech, like, okay, we'll come and, teach a lesson on genetics or something like that can lead to enrollment down the road. So talking to HR, we have a university partner who includes a flyer about our school in every hire. And that has that, I mean, it's not like a flood, but every year there are several who will reach out because of that. And then the last group that I think are often overlooked are real estate agents. They're constantly like the ones dealing with kids and families like moving in and knowing the landscape. So we've hosted events. I haven't done it in a while, but like we've had conversations with different realtors. And it's not hard. Just host a coffee. They're people who love to talk. Um, Getting them to show up, that's another story. But you can definitely there's so many agents out there who just like need that little edge. And I find that often they're willing to just kind of meet you just to have an in, right? And like if you have families that might be looking to sell, yeah, I think real estate is an overlooked resource.
Thanks. Thank you all for weighing in on that. Okay, so this is a question that I think you were all excited to answer. Admissions can be a lot right now, right? How are you managing the mental load, and what role does school culture and leadership play in supporting that?
Yeah, I mean, we're carrying a lot, not to mention just, existential worry and dread. Uh, our schools are facing a lot, and enrollment, as we all probably feel, are, whether you're kind of growing with wait lists, they can be tenuous, and others are still fighting for survival. We bear the weight of a lot of that, and so props out to everybody for hanging in there. Um, I would say, yeah, I mean, your school culture, your leadership is huge. Ours often will say, let's have a meeting on foot. Let's walk and talk. I do schedule planning time. I don't always use it to the best, but I always schedule out about an hour at the beginning of the week, an hour at the end of the week, just for my own headspace to like plan, whether that's calendar related or just like take a breath. Putting it in your calendar for me is like kind of a big deal because we all probably live by our calendars. Um, play, I mean, play. Like, you have kids in your building. Do you get in there? Are you hopefully able to play? Like that for me is huge. If I can get out and play some frisbee, go for a run with kids, recess. I mean, it's work, but I'm loving it. It's super fun. And hopefully your leadership will encourage you to do that, right? Um, I'll stop there. I could keep going.
I'll go next. I'll say, when I first saw this question, I thought about when it's the busiest, when I'm under the most duress, what makes a difference? For me, it's all about the processes that I have in place that work for me, the tools that I've developed, and then staying true to those processes, not trying to reinvent the wheel when it's super busy. And I've kind of predetermined what has to be done, what can be done, what can wait. Much like Matt, I take about 15 minutes at the start of every day to try and plan out the must, may, don't really have tos for the day. And then if there are emergencies, I already have a plan for what's going to go. I don't have to waste processing power on that. But I have the same sketched out for a tour. I have the same thing sketched out for admissions processes. I have the same thing sketched out for weeks where we have to get a marketing pitch for the next open house to Meta and Google. I have a month plan for what those processes have to look like on a day-to-day basis. I've found the more things that I can have pre-planned, the more my mind can be creative in times of duress and make the best decisions possible. So I would say, if you haven't written down your processes yet, even if you're never going to look at the sheet of paper, it is worth writing it. So when your mind goes blank, you can access it and remember what you have to do right now to move forward.
I think having the support of your head of school, having the support of the people that you work with is key. I also I never leave until I have my packets for the night tours for the next day laid out on my desk. I want packets prepared in advance. You know, I don't want to run out of them if I have a walk-in. I want to know what my tomorrow and really it's Wednesday, I think, right? No, it's Thursday. I want to know what Friday and Monday are going to look like before I leave today, so that I'm not walking in unexpected. I Life always hands us curves, and we know that. And I want it to be smooth enough in when I leave my office that if I don't get in here tomorrow, somebody else could walk in and take over, and the school would not enroll the families that are coming to the door.
Thank you all so much for sharing. I mean, what you all are doing in your roles, and I know all of our attendees too. It's a lot. It's a huge lift, and you know, those tips that you gave and you know, that perspective you shared, I think very helpful for everyone attending. So thank you very much. We're going to kind of pause with our set questions because a lot has come into the chat. And I'm wondering if we'll shift to just regular Q&A now so we can address those questions. Thank you so much, the M's, for answering thus far. So let's dive into the questions I have in the chat. Okay, let me scroll because they've been coming in. What's one thing schools need to stop doing because it's no longer effective in today's enrollment landscape?
I will say we've stopped, again, because of our situation, we've stopped considering things like billboards. They're not, we can't measure if they're effective. They may or may not be reaching the people that have the right age group of kids. Anything where we feel really unconfident we can measure whether it's worth it, we've cut for things that we can be more sure of, as far as from a marketing standpoint.
Thanks, Matthew. Marnie or Matt, do you have anything to add?
I think I used to extend a tour, or I had a walk-in the other night, for example, that was obviously not mission appropriate. And in the past, I would have let them see that they were not mission appropriate by taking them on a tour. I just told them we were not the right match and sent them on their way with some suggestions of other places to look, because I figured that saved me an hour of my day as well.
Great. Matt, anything?
Yeah, I guess in consolidating to your open houses, we discussed the plus Saturdays. We definitely let that go. We talked about that a little bit. We do still do a billboard, but strategically, you got to think about, you know, the timing on that. But yeah, for a while we did not do. You can't click a billboard, so if you can't track it, marketing wise, I'm not as interested. Trackability, and like Matthew was saying, like retargeting requires that you hit a link that then you can follow up with. And so it's like double the effort. So even print, like maybe you throw a QR code, but it's not as useful. Great for branding. So you got to be really clear about on the marketing side, like where is the ROI? And I agree with that. Focus on trackable.
Great insights, everyone. So I don't think we really mentioned virtual in what we talked about before, but a question came up like, when do you think virtual is important? You know, is there still that a use for virtual open houses, at least in your experience with your schools?
I will say we've been growing into this. We see, because of our cost comparison to other localities, frequently when people move, we look very affordable compared to where they're moving from. So not only do we advertise on Zillow to hit people who are searching for homes from out of zip code, I'm starting to get more requests for virtual. What I've found is an interview with the teacher matters more than a walk through the building, because if they found our school and they're interested, they were doing that without seeing the school already. What they want to know is if their child's teacher is going to care for them and that personal relationship. So I would say there's always going to be a place, especially as people move in and look from so far away, they can't access you. But how do you make it personal? And how do you show them what they might actually be wanting to know, as opposed to something less personal?
I still do Zoom meetings with families, and some of them are very local, but they can schedule either a Zoom or an in-person tour, and I think that is great. We get a few international, so I will take them on a tour. I try and do those at the end of the school day when I don't have students in the shots as well.
That's great.
Thing. I think a virtual open house is it's sort of a way out for people to be like, I'm not really feel like going anywhere, and I'm just gonna pretend to like show up and maybe even turn it on, and they're not even there, right? Like I just don't want that. Definitely a personal tour. That's very clear in my Calendly. Again, Calendly, like you have an option in person, out, Zoom. And I get a handful, but most people want to come and see it for themselves, in my experience. So I'm wasting my time if I'm going to do a virtual open house or like programmatic thing. Unless I wanted to do it so that I had like a great recording of it. Like if there was another add-on purpose, maybe. But I think it also like elicits PTSD for people like you had to do it all that way. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like the Zoom. Thank you all for being here, by the way. It has that sense, right? And when you're looking at schools like that can it can be hard to like really sell the kind of relationships that you are selling. Like it's the teacher-student relationship you want to show, and that's really hard to do here. But some markets, for sure, you got to look at your own school environment, international for sure. But definitely having it as an option has made it work for a lot of families coming from out of town. So you got to have it as an option.
Great. Thank you all so much for answering that question. We have time for one more question. So for someone new in enrollment and at a small school under 300 enrollment and small department, 2 people, what professional development conferences or workshops do you recommend for a newbie?
Small school.
She's perfect. Are you promoting my conference?
Yes. It's fantastic.
I did not pay for that, anyone. Thank you, Marnie. Any other suggestions?
I would say finding a mentor and making friends with other people that are in the same boat with you, forming collegial relationships, people you can go to at regular intervals, maybe people that become friends and you can commiserate with, someone that can help offload some of your mental load. Might be more important than any specific week-long thing that you spend a lot of money for and then never think about again. Not that those don't have their merits, and I've been to very good ones, but the colleagues I've made are the things that really pay dividends, and not all of them were made through a specific activity.
I co-sign all of that, and had your association of independent schools likely has something, like I mentioned earlier, the admissions conference here is a great way to like meet those people, maybe mentors, or you also learn a lot. I also did the ISM. It was mastering for admissions in Chicago. I thought the depth there was excellent. So if you are looking for something that like will ground you in some theory and practice, like that will be that's a solid one. And if your board is on board with the ISM stability markers, like even better. So that's one I like. And then just reach out to your local schools. Like we all why do we silo ourselves, right? And so we've had lunches together, and the collegiality is huge, but we all kind of get worried, or too busy, but worried more about crossing the line. So that's my 2 cents.
That's great. And I would say, whatever you do choose, do advocate for a professional development budget. It's really important to you. I mean, especially if you're in marketing and enrollment, these fields are changing every year, every month, right? So just being able to stay on top of that, plus being able to form those networks with colleagues and stuff like it's so important. So thank you. Well, it's about time for us to wrap up. We could go on forever because thank you, Marnie, Matthew, and Matt. I mean, you just are amazing, and I could ask a million questions and you'd have a million great answers. So Thank you for sharing your wisdom today. We really appreciate you. We're going to throw their links in the chat, and we'll also put them in a follow-up email, but please connect with them. They're doing great things in their field, and they obviously showed up today because they believe in what you are doing and can resonate with all of the different things that you're facing in your schools. So thank you again, Marnie, Matthew, and Matt.
Thanks for joining us on the Mindful School Marketing Podcast.
We'd love it if you pop into iTunes and leave a review, 5-star preferred. Let us know how you like the show. It helps us improve what we're doing and helps others find us too.